These are some goofy changeable figures from the Imperial Toy Corporation, and they made them in 1970 is when they started them. And I used to have these. I bought mine from Woolworths in 1973. Woolworths 5 and 10 in Morristown, New Jersey. And I had maybe all 8 of them, but at least 7 of them. I think the woman one would be the rarest one, because if you're an 8 to 10-year-old kid, you wouldn't really want to play with that one. That's a weightlifter, what I would call like a flower power hippie, flower child kind of hippie, a prisoner, and a chef. He would have had a little white chef's hat. And that fork is really the fork still in his hand. It's just it's just rubber. Mine broke off like in the first couple of weeks of playing around with it, and the tongue being red, that paint wore off pretty quick too, like peeled off. But these were the last toys I played with. In 1974, I was in 6th grade, and a kid from school came over my house and seen them on my bureaus with some like cardboard box houses for him and stuff, and I was kind of embarrassed and said, "Oh, I just fool around with these," and that was like at the end of my, you know, where you got to give up the Barbie dolls and the toy soldiers, you know, when you reach a certain age. So 6th grade, the middle of 6th grade was the end of me playing with toys. But here's an image I got off somebody on the internet. They're called Goofy Changeables. Imperial Toy Corporation, 1970, and they say things like, "We go to pieces, change our looks, help me find my body, change us 100 ways, play with all Goofy 8. Like I said, I think the 8th one's a woman, and it's real rare. Now this police officer over here, I'm going to zoom it up. That police officer was my favorite one. You can see that police officer there. That was my favorite one. And my first ones, you bought them in like 2 or 3 in a pack on the like a rack toy. And the judge and the policeman came with each other for my first ones. And that's a drunk. But what I was going to say is, I'll zoom this back out a little bit. What I was going to say is the only theme I could think of is you had a police officer, you had a judge, and then you had a prisoner, and they're all with the solid bodies. That prisoner doesn't have the ball and chain like the one I got. And then what could you do with them? You could play like somebody got arrested and they went before the judge, and then they became a prisoner. And maybe if you had a drunk, would be a candidate to go to court and go to jail. Or maybe like a hippie flower child. See, that one still has the flower, like doing some kind of protests and being. And then maybe when you were in jail, you had a cook cooking for you, and somebody was lifting weights. That's the only theme that I get from all these, and even this backs it up. As you see, all the background of this piece of cardboard is a brick prison. And you see the drunk, he's behind bars in jail. And then you see the hippie flower child, he's in a cell looking at the window of his jail cell with bars on the windows. And I'll zoom it back up here. Oh, too much here. So you got Imperial Toy Corporation, Los Angeles, California, made in Hong Kong, 1970. 912. And that one there, there's a woman there. So I think that's the 8th one that looks like that. There's a dress and there's a head like a woman, because you see over here that's a head that's on the weightlifter, and that bottom there is on the flower child hippie, the exact same thing, the blue belt and that yellow waist. But these were one of the coolest toys. These were the last toys I played with. And I just, after years and years of trying to get them, or even see images of them online, I bought these off of eBay. There's the weightlifter. There's the flower child hippie person. There's the prisoner. And there's the chef. Now we used to have them, me and my friend, we used to have them switched around. See, I'll show you. For instance, you can take his head off. Try to do this. You can pop his head off of him, and you can take his head, say. See, it has a little post in the hole. And now his head is on his body. And a couple of them, you could switch the legs all around on them. But this one with the, it looked like a Chinese chef to me. See how his tongue's sticking out? He can't go on everybody's body, so most of the time we pretty much kept his head on the chef's body. But these were probably either from a collector or they were over grandmom's house, you know, and they didn't get played with, because that fork is still on there. I mean, my fork broke off like the second week I had it, probably. But I'm really glad to get these. They're goofy Changeables, the Imperial Toy Corporation. They made all kinds of cool toys back in the 70s.